Sometimes people let us down. They promise one thing, they deliver another. We expect performance at this level, we get performance at that level. We're disappointed, hurt. Sometimes it undermines our ability to achieve what we set out to accomplish. What would happen in a relationship if a person consistently lets us down, promises one thing, doesn't deliver? What would happen in that relationship if we never deal with that? What would you predict for the relationship? What would happen in a work team if someone consistently underperforms and the supervisor never addresses it, never deals with it? What would you predict for that work team? What would you predict if the way a majority of supervisors and managers in a company deal with poor performance and bad behavior by ignoring it, avoiding it, going silent? What would you predict for that company? Well, as responsible individuals and as motivated leaders, we can't let situations like that occur without paying a huge price. It's a price in terms of results, but it's also a price we pay in terms of relationships. Problems unaddressed tend to get worse rather than better. We were getting a grand tour of a brand new headquarters. Fortune 500 company had built this massive, massive headquarters. It was beautiful with the glass and the brass. And the vice president who was taking us around was so proud of it and said, and it'll be almost paperless, everything's electronic. Well, we got to the end of the tour in this massive auditorium, and we said, boy, this is quite a facility. And just kind of making talk, I said, well, how many people work here? And he looked around and said, oh, on a good day, about 40%. Daniel Yankelevich did a nationwide poll of workers in America. 44% report doing the bare minimum required to keep from being fired and no more. We're losing something around productivity. We're losing something in terms of performance and accomplishing what we could accomplish if, in fact, we as leaders handled problems in a different way. I'd like to define a crucial confrontation as a face-to-face accountability conversation. A face-to-face accountability conversation around something that matters. So, if someone disappoints you, it's minor, no big deal, let it go. But if it's high stakes, then this is crucial. And if you don't have that accountability conversation, I predict, just as in relationships that aren't addressed, poor behavior on teams that aren't addressed, or a culture of poor performance, that results will suffer and relationships in a big way. How do most people handle these crucial confrontations? We found the vast majority go silent. They say nothing. They see a gap between what they expected, what they're getting, and they go silent. Now, there's a price we pay when we go silent in a crucial conversation. And I'd like to give you a metaphor, a way of thinking about it. Picture an afternoon. I need a snack. Go to the refrigerator, open it up. Cottage cheese. That's a healthy alternative. Pop it open. Oh, it's gone rancid. Oh, it smells horrible. And what are those little green specks? Gee, maybe if I sit it here on the counter in the sunlight for a few days, it'll get better. That's called cottage cheese on the counter. And let me tell you, it doesn't get better. It gets worse. Cottage cheese on the counter. That's the metaphor I want you to keep in mind when you consider what will happen if I don't confront this gap between what I expected and what I got. What will I get if I procrastinate this difficult performance conversation? What will happen if I let a problem go unaddressed? Well, I'll tell you, it doesn't get better. It gets worse. Cottage cheese on the counter. We were doing a study in healthcare, and we found that there was a patient who was checked in at a hospital for a tonsillectomy. They put her under, and then amputated 3/4 of her right foot. When she woke up, found out what had happened, she was hysterical. It was a horrific mistake. Administrators immediately launched an investigation. How could this possibly have happened? Well, one thing they found is they interviewed every single person who had anything to do with her care, ranging from the admittance clerk all the way through to the nurse in the recovery room. You know what they found? No fewer than 7 people. 7 people who had something to do with her care recognized something's wrong here, something's amiss, and not one of them said anything, including the medical technician who stocked the tray for the surgery. And he goes down the list and he goes, bone saw? Why do they need a bone saw for a tonsillectomy? Oh well, not my call. Puts a bone saw on the tray. 7 people, if one of them had spoken up, may have prevented this tragedy. Well, as we began working at that hospital, collecting data, trying to understand the culture, you know what we found? They had created here a culture of silence. Now, if you walk down the halls, you'll see people talking and chattering, interacting. It doesn't look any different than any other hospital. But as soon as a gap appears, a significant gap between what's expected and what's delivered, they had learned to go silent. We interviewed groups of employees. A question we asked is, what does it take to get along around here? What does it take to get ahead? What does it take to do well? Over 90% of respondents said, never question a doctor. That's what it takes to do well around here. Never question a doctor. In fact, almost everyone we interviewed could name someone who had been fired for challenging a doctor. Many of them had broadened that assumption from physicians to management. Said, never question your boss. Do what you're told. Don't rock the boat. The key to getting along around here is go silent when it becomes crucial. They had created a culture of silence. Could you have a culture of silence in a large organization, Fortune 500 company? Yes. Could you have a culture of silence in a division? Yes. A department? How about a work team? How about in a critical relationship? How about in a family? We found you can. And when you postpone having a crucial confrontation that's needed, when you procrastinate, when you decide not to have it, when you go silent, it's cottage cheese on the counter. It's going to get worse, not better. Now, I don't work directly with them, but a consultant friend of mine who does says a culture of silence killed 7 astronauts. And when they didn't fix it, killed another 7. What do you think? Could that be a problem where you work? Well, in most situations, go silent when they encounter a crucial confrontation. Some go violent. Instead of going silent, ignoring it, avoiding it, withdrawing, they go violent. They attack the person, they're disrespectful, they bully, they threaten, they intimidate. And you know what we found? There's a price you pay when you handle a crucial confrontation by going violent.